Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to HitScan. We're making a video together as we got a pretty big patch actually that's in store for us playing Valorant. It does include some pretty big buffs and nerfs to the agents, which is what we're going over into this video. But it actually has a lot of changes to stuff like recoil, accuracy, peeker's advantage, big talking point recently. But we can't visually see what those changes actually look like until the patch hits, which is like, what, 3 AM for us? So it's fair to say that our videos come in tomorrow when we can actually show you what those changes are. But we can talk about some of the pretty hefty changes to some of the agents.
So to get into the agent updates, there's quite a few, almost all of them have been changed. We're gonna just cover the changes quickly and then just initial impressions, and gonna try to quickfire this a little bit at least because there's just so much stuff. Alright, first off, Sage. Sage Barrier Orb increased from 300 to 400 credits in cost for the ability. Slow Orb Zone duration decreased from 9 seconds to 7 seconds, so that's how long the Slow Orb is just out on the floor. And Slow Orb slowing amount has decreased from 65 to 50%. So hard to say exactly how that's gonna feel in game, but all in all, just a nerf with 2 seconds, and it's just slowing a little bit less as well. And the Barrier Orb, which I think is almost a bigger change, costing 100 more, is quite a bit. That's the most, well, I think at least the most expensive ability in the game now.
I think the best part about this is the dev comments, just saying that we all know that Sage is OP, they want to try and reduce some of the stopping power while still allowing it to fulfill a role as the premier staller in Valorant. Kind of interesting choice of words, I suppose, to say that she has a role like that in the game, as well as being the only healer. But I like that they are taking pot shots at the more popular, more overpowered characters in the game. Sage is still going to feel really good. It's just going to be harder to do certain stuff with her and a lot more expensive, kind of like you mentioned. 400 credits for the Barrier Orb means that you're not really going to see it as much in pistol rounds, I don't think. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, she needs some tweaking and tuning regardless, so we'll see what that will do. I still think her heal is probably the most sort of key ability for the character, but we'll see, Cypher up next. Cyber Cage, his sort of cylinder-looking smoke, is no longer slowing enemies that move through it. Interesting to see that change because it really is one of the more characteristic things that this ability does. It's a smoke that also slows. It's not really similar to any other ability in the game in that way.
It's probably the strongest smoke because of that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of people have turned around and said that, oh yeah, Cyber Cage is the strongest smoke in the game, when a lot of people don't even consider it being a smoke, right? Oh, because it's a cylinder, you deploy it.
Yeah, because it's that combined with the fact that you can't shoot it when you see it on the floor. Because you can see it the same way you see a trap wire on the wall, but you just can't shoot it, you can't damage it. So
there's no counterplay.
Yeah, probably a pretty good change. Just Cypher being able to say, no, you're not pushing now, you're gonna have to wait, is pretty crazy, and that ability is one of the best abilities probably in the game right now. So happy to see that change, along with the Spy Cam, the signature ability. Cooldown when destroyed has been increased from 30 seconds to 45 seconds, so pretty hefty there. And I think that's just pretty solid when you place it out at the start of a round and then someone shoots it early on and then 30 seconds later you have it again. They might not even have had time to push then, so
yeah, you just need to be a bit more deliberate as Cypher, otherwise you get punished and you can't get the intel that the character's literally really useful for, right? So you can easily get countered a bit more. But I do want to talk about Viper actually. Viper has also had a change to her snakebite. The radius has been increased from 350 to 450. Like we sort of said, we'll be able to show what that looks like tomorrow, but it's fair to say that this is going to make it a lot stronger. I think when you compare that to the Hot Hands Molotov that Phoenix has, or the Incendiary that Brimstone has, it doesn't really feel like it's on the same page. It just doesn't feel as it's as useful, but what you have to mention is that it has 2 charges, so it's a bit bigger now. Might bump up Viper's viability just outside of the smokes that she can do, right? So not only do you have a bigger Molotov, because that's effectively what it is, you also have 2 charges of it, which might make Viper really, really good in the future. It's certainly not a change that you just want to think, it's alright, this could be really strong. In previous videos, we did mention that Omen's getting a few touch-ups here and there. I think we both assumed that it was just going to be like artistically, making sure that its abilities followed visually what they actually did, but there's quite a lot more for Omen. The dark cover smoke duration has been increased from 12 to 15 seconds. It's also had its projectile speed increased so it could get to a destination much faster, which I think is really strong. And also the cooldown has been increased, but from 30 seconds to 35 seconds, putting it on par with all of the other cooldown abilities in the game, like Sage's heal as an example. I think this is really good. Omen, I think, is just like Viper, a character that needs a bit more time in the oven for people to realize how good they are. but this certainly helps.
Yeah, I think overall, looking at someone like Brimstone and having him kind of be like a benchmark to bring characters up to, and Omen especially being one of those characters that kind of needed that treatment, this is pretty much doing exactly that. It just helps out a lot there, and the dev comment kind of acknowledges that too. I think in a way what's also important to consider with Omen is that having that consistency is really useful when you're looking at other abilities that can sometimes be a bit inconsistent, such as the ultimate, right? It can be a little bit difficult to use in certain circumstances. You can get a little bit unlucky with it, that sort of thing. Someone just about hearing the sound cue. So having this consistency really helps bring up a character like that a lot in play. Next up, we got mostly a whole lot of, I guess ability cost changes, the credits being upped a little bit on, most of these except one ability right at the end. We're gonna just begin by, I guess, just racing through these. Oh, pun not intended. As we begin with race. Well, actually not intended though. Race Blast Pack increased from 100 to 200 credits. So pretty big change, honestly, because they were in a way the kind of smaller, I don't want to say throwaway sort of like abilities that you don't necessarily need to get value out of. Obviously they're really versatile and really strong. The fact that you can use them for movement and for just a sort of quick throw around the corner to finish someone off is great, but upping that to 200, now her abilities are getting pretty expensive, with I think the Roomba being like a 300 credit ability, right? So regardless, that's quite a bit to pay for for the character. Brimstone as well. Brimstone's Incendiary increased from 200 to 300 credits, so not as bad in terms of like a doubling there, but it's still quite a bit. I like that ability a lot.
I think like Brimstone is always going to be just a standout pick that most people choose, but certainly with the changes to Viper, with the radius of Snakebite, that just makes her look a lot better with being able to use those abilities to deny space, because Brimstone's great for smokes, but you can push through these smokes fairly easily, so if you want something more aggressive, you can start to pick Viper a little bit more, as it seems a bit trickier to do that with Brimstone because it's more expensive. Same with Omen, right? He's a lot better, Viper's a lot better. They're trying to get a lot closer to the effective use that Brimstone has when he's been brought down a little bit, so I'm really happy to see this change. I love Brimstone, but it's fair to say he's a lot better than Viper and Omen right now.
This is also one of those things where I notice myself somehow going, or sometimes when I'm in game playing Brimstone, going, oh, I really want the Incendiary, I really need the Molly for this particular part of the map that I'm playing. So having to sacrifice maybe buying one smoke now as a result, because of the 100 extra increase in credits for the Incendiary, all of a sudden you might be left having to make those choices more, which I think will help balance the character too. So yeah, interesting stuff. I really like the idea that they can play with both cost and the impact of the abilities. It just makes it a lot more interesting to read patterns like this. And Phoenix as well, same thing. Phoenix Curveball increased from 100 to 200 credits, which is also, again, feels a little bit similar to Race, where it was kind of like you could buy one blast pack or two blast packs and be like, all right, if you missed one, no biggie, you got another one. But now with that increased cost, you're throwing away more money, quite literally, and it feels just like that will put a bit of a different what's the word, like sort of underlying thought into every time you want to throw out a curveball or a blast pack. And in my case with Phoenix, I feel like with the flashes, they're really useful. Obviously they're really strong, but they also do kind of telegraph your play a lot. So having that increase in an ability like that is interesting to see, and I wonder if they will do anything more with flashes in this game, because currently Phoenix and Breach are the only two, and well, feels like a pretty crucial ability in an attack shooter, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a bit too punishing for Phoenix, really. I felt that he was fine, like, started to get picked up now and again. Obviously really popular in competitive play that we all have, but maybe a bit too mean of Riot to nerf him in this kind of fashion, at least. But the last one's really interesting. Jet got a bit of a buff because her updraft ability, which is a nice strong hop up into the air skill, has had its money reduced. It used to cost 200 credits, now it costs 100, which I find really fascinating when you pair that with the blast pack change to Raze, right? I guess Riot felt Raze was able to do Jet's job a little bit better because it was cheaper for Raze to use the blast packs to jump onto boxes. Jet should be the one jumping onto boxes a lot easier than Raze should be, right? I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that must be at least an underlying thought to this change, right? Like, it was one of those things that people started pointing out a lot when playing a few days into the closed beta, and how Raze and Jet and comparing that type of vertical movement is, you know, it's not super rare in Valorant. Like there's a few characters that can do things that allows them to go up and boost themselves and such. But when it comes to Jett and Raze in particular, yeah, I think that's really solid, especially considering they're both duelists too, so they fall even more into that category of trying to do each other's jobs and that sort of thing. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a good change. We also have a little bit of an extra thing at the end, which is more of a general change to Molotov style abilities, which you can cover if you want to.
Yeah, so if you are a keen eye and able to hop through stuff, like bunny hop through it, you tend to kind of get through the incendiaries, the fireballs, the snake bites, taking no damage, really, at all. So now, if you try and bunny hop through stuff, you will take damage, because the height required for you to jump over these area denial abilities has been increased, so you need to use blast packs from Raze, updraft from Jett in order to not take damage from them. But also, the tick speed has been increased, but it doesn't mean that you take more damage.
So with the total damage being unchanged there overall and it just increasing ticks, I think that actually mostly helps out Brimstone and Phoenix rather than Viper, because Viper's snakebite already ticks pretty quickly and your health will tick down pretty fast. Well, at least you'll see the number update pretty quickly. You won't really see that much damage because of, well, the ability just not being that amazing. But when it comes to Fireball and Incendiary, it was that sort of thing where you could definitely see people jumping through and only taking 1 tick when really they should have taken 3 or 4. So I really like this sort of change. It reminds me a lot of the bunny hop change for the Sage Slow Orb that was made a couple of weeks back to not be able to bunny hop through the Sage Slow Orb. So yeah, these sort of changes really good because I feel like it balances the game out a lot more, but it also helps with just quality of life and making things work more the way they're intended to work. So loving this stuff for sure.
It makes sense why Brimstone's money has been put up for Incendiary too, with that change in mind, right? So
oh, yeah,
maybe
true.
It was a bit too strong that they wanted to just up it a little bit. But out of the changes that we've had, some pretty big stuff to Sage and Cypher, who are the most popular characters in the game currently. What are your favourite changes? What are you looking forward to seeing? Either a nerf to those big two, or maybe even a stuff to Viper and Omen. What's caught your attention more?
I'm really interested in seeing how Sage feels after this, because already it's one of those characters that people feel like you have to kind of pick, but maybe it's not the most fun to play because she doesn't really do a lot of flashy stuff. So maybe this will put off some people and we'll just see a bit less of her in competitive because of that, but she'll still be very viable at a more sort of higher level of play in tournaments and such. I wonder what that will be like. That'll be interesting to see. And in terms of Omen, I just hope that this helps out Omen a little bit, because Brimstone always felt like it was just easier to get that same type of smoke value out of what now with Omen, a bit more consistency added to the character overall. Really looking forward to seeing just more of him, because I love the mind games plays. Even though I don't play Omen myself, I really like the teleport and mind games plays and, you know, standing in your smokes and all that. So hoping to see more of him just in general.
Not only that, with this patch we have some pretty amazing stuff to recoil accuracy, the Peeker's advantage thing, which has been a big debate recently, but we will be covering that tomorrow when we can actually show what these changes look like.
Along with changes to split as well.
Yes, map changes, which is going to be really exciting actually. So we'll have nice comparisons between the two, but that's tomorrow. This is now. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of these balance changes to the agents, whether you agree or disagree with them. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.